Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining this important webinar today. We're very pleased in the middle of a campaign season, a very important campaign season, the change of governor. Regardless of who you are rooting for to win, there will be a different governor in office because the current governor is term limited. We're very excited to have this type of forum here at the Cannabis Business Association with a spotlight on our issues for the cannabis industry. And joining us as a surrogate to the Mickie Sherrill campaign, Mickie Sherrill is a candidate for governor on the Democrat side, a current United States Congresswoman, and a former Navy helicopter pilot. We have the father of cannabis legalization in New Jersey, the current New Jersey State Senate President, Nick Scutari. So welcome, Senate President Scutari, on behalf of the Sherrill campaign. We're really privileged to have you with us today.
Bill, always good to be with you, my friend.
So I want to get started with just a quick advertisement for us. You know our organization well, the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association, founded by my friend.
I think I kind of helped create it a little bit. But
I was just going to say, you were there in the beginning with our friend Scott Rutter, a former colleague of yours in the legislature, who formed this wonderful organization.
One of the first people to come to Colorado with me.
Yes, sir. We are the largest cannabis industry association in the state. We were there in the beginning advocating for legalization. We continue advocating for excellence in the industry now. We do tons of outreach and education. And frankly, the shining star of this organization, in addition to our membership, who are out there every day grinding, are the committees that have formed here. We have a lab testing committee. We have a manufacturing committee. We have a retail committee. We have a cultivation committee. These committees are the engines now of innovation, and they interface regularly, Senate President, with the CRC on regular interactions, both on regulatory issues and other things affecting the industry, and now also with the legislative folks, because there's tons of activity going on in the legislature now, which is exciting and new. So I don't want to leave out this incredible work that's going on here, and hopefully that will continue with the next administration, whoever that may be. So what I also wanted to do is your introduction, if you want to say a couple words on behalf of the candidate.
Well, I can tell you that I spoke personally with the candidate last night at length regarding this forum today to get her thoughts on, where she is on a lot of these major issues. Obviously, I have my own thoughts on it since, I worked on it for close to 20 years before it finally got passed. And, the tortured history. Even after it got passed by the voters, we couldn't get it passed by the legislature. So a lot of things weren't done perfectly in the legislation. I'll take some, credit and / blame for that because, we did what we had to do to get it off the ground. It's off the ground now. We've got an industry that is starting to thrive. We got lots of issues that we need to resolve. We've got lots of problems with the industry that's not necessarily related to the Cannabis Commission, and some may be. Things that we knew were going to happen. Continuing illegal sales, popping up of illegal sale locations that are just brick and mortar, not even out of the trunk of people's cars now. And we need to do something about that. Bill, that I introduced a couple of draconian type bills recently to get this topic moving. And I talked to you ahead of time of that. I wasn't married to any particular parts of those bills other than I wanted the conversation to start because I believe that there is a reason that we have a legalized marketplace. And that is to safeguard the public. And if you continue to buy it illegally, you're not taking advantage of all the regulations that are in place. There's a good reason why there's tons and tons and pages of regulations. There's reasons for those regulations to safeguard the public. There's unionization regulations. Some of it's over-regulation. I know that. And we've got to try to fix some of those things. But some of them are there for the health and safety of our constituents. So I think one of the main things that I'll be concentrating on, and I spoke to Mickie Sherrill about this, is, a task force. And I've also spoke to the current Attorney General about this, although we haven't gotten this off the ground, a task force to try to crack down on illegal sales. I know that in the city of Elizabeth, just recently, the mayor did a crackdown where he closed down 20 illegal shops 20 in the city of Elizabeth that were unlicensed. I found it interesting the lab training committee that you mentioned, Bill, because one of the things that I think is concerning is the testing of all this product that's been seized to make sure that we can, prove those cases. Because there will be an articulable argument that, hey, this may not be illegal, maybe it's not THC based, but we're pretty certain that most of it is. So lots to do, lots to improve on. I know that. And I believe Mikey Sherrill will be more than open minded to continue the progress we've made in this area. I think she's certainly in favor of legalization, but obviously she's got her own thoughts in terms of how we can make improvements on it, and so do I.
I love it. And you anticipated my first question, although I'm going to take us out a little bit because you got into some of the nitty gritty of what are some things you'd like to build on? What are some things you'd change? But what's your general view of the state of the New Jersey cannabis industry?
Well, I would say it was painfully expensive for folks trying to get into the industry, right?
Hmm.
Anybody that started saw the rigorous regulations, over regulation, quite frankly. Some of it was our fault, and some of it may have been the commission's fault in terms of how difficult people had it getting their licenses, just the extraordinary expense. And I understand that these people that are in these businesses don't have just money to burn. And, we treated them that way in the beginning. Hopefully that has changed to somewhat. People are getting up and running. But as I've said many times before, this isn't necessarily going to be a golden ticket because there's lots and lots of people that are interested in being in this industry, and you're going to have to compete for business. And there is only so much business that there is out there for to sell legalized cannabis. Um, but I think there's some improvements that we can make. We've been recently talking about advertising as an avenue that we might be able to go into. We didn't have that originally. We may be talking about changes in what happens to people that possess it that are under the age of 21. That was an area that we needed to compromise to get the final piece of legislation over, which wasn't necessarily in favor of all those amendments, but we needed to get it done. So some things that we can certainly improve on. But I think, now that we a couple of years have gone by, there are places that excel it. There is no problem with someone who wants to legally buy cannabis in New Jersey that they can buy it. So that is kudos to the Cannabis Commission. That is happening, and to the folks that put all their blood, sweat, tears, and money into that. I congratulate them.
Excellent. So here's a problem that you're not necessarily responsible for, but as governor, we're going to ask for your help. New Jersey and other states are leading the way in cannabis reform, and the federal government is essentially just getting in the way. Whether it's banking, access to capital, tax treatment, advertising, we just talked about, despite this innovation that we're seeing here in New Jersey and other places, the federal government just isn't getting there. What can you do as governor? What efforts can you undertake at the federal level to support this type of change that we need there? What would you do as governor, and what would your candidate do as governor to help that effort?
So there was one interesting issue that the Governor Murphy brought up when he first ran for office, didn't get off the ground, but was a state bank.
Mhm.
Now, the state bank idea wasn't necessarily for cannabis, but I thought of it in the cannabis kind of mindset. If we had a limited state bank where people could use and benefit from all the banking needs that they have, backed by state of New Jersey, where they could utilize all the banking needs that they had with a government-backed bank with government-banked, ability to, make deposits, and they didn't have to all be cash, and to have, debit cards that go along with it, and keep track of their expenses, although a lot of them are federally written off. That is an idea that I think is something, if the federal government continues to refuse to recognize a legalized marketplace, that we could make a change. Now, it's kind of not going to be simple to create a bank, but it's certainly something I think that might help with an area where we are not in business to help. So it would be certainly something outside of what state government normally does, but I think it's something that state government could do if the industry, cannot get the help from the federal government. The simplest thing would be the federal government would take it off the schedule of the most dangerous drugs and allow it to be a business. Certainly, writing off business expenses would be good for everybody, considering you can't do that now, which is incredibly unfair. So those are some things that I think that could be helpful. That's not going to be a simple task. But it's something that I think is a way that we might be able to lend a hand.
Excellent. Um, Let me switching over back to the state side. We are not currently at our full complement of CRC commissioners. We have one pending. We have another one yet to be appointed, and we have two members whose terms are going to expire in the next governor's term coming up in the spring.
Yes.
What what are the views? I don't have to get into specific people, but what are the views generally of who should be a candidate for commissioner on the CRC? And as a two-part question, as governor, what will you do to improve the work between the CRC, industry, legislature to ensure that the appropriate innovative efforts are undertaken to address regulatory and statutory changes?
Well, certainly, I've heard the complaints over the years about the adversarial type of feeling that the industry has with the commission, and I would absolutely want to see that stop. And I think with the yet to be appointed commissioner, who's on the waiting in the wings, in about 8 weeks he'll be on there,
Excellent.
and the latest commissioner, you've certainly I can speak to them that I personally will have open ears and an open door for their help. And as it goes to the others, I think you know, they they are who they are, and they're going to be the way they are. And I think we can make improvements with those folks. And if those folks are not going to, reflect Governor Sherrill's kind of thought processes on it, then I'm certain that she'll consider going in a different direction. I'm certain she hasn't made an ultimate decision on that. One of those appointments is mine, actually, and I haven't made an ultimate decision either. So, but we certainly want to make sure that the commission becomes more flexible and open-minded to the industry, because uh, I feel your pain, and it feels like they have cost so much time and money with the stopgap and the stops on progress. And I think that's across government lately. It seems like there's always a reason not to do something. I'm the kind of lawyer, Bill, that that I want to figure out a way to get it done. There are other lawyers that are going to tell you why you can't do something. Always can't do it for this reason, can't do it for that reason. It's the very reason one of our commissioners is sitting in limbo right now, because someone has told him he can't do it, even though the legislation was specifically written and amended to allow him to sit on the commission. And yet they're still putting up a stop sign that you have to wait until after election day to be seated. So, that overall mentality of slow the process down, we want to get past and move it into a more business friendly environment. It's been a difficult road. It is a difficult thing. They had a very hard job getting this whole thing together and creating an industry. So kudos to them and all the hard work in the administration, the commissioners, but even more so the staff for getting this off the ground, because it was a big deal. But I'd like to see an attitude that is more friendly to our business environment.
Excellent. This organization, the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association, has fought for racial and social equity alongside many, many others during the efforts to legalize cannabis in our state. And we have supported fair taxation of cannabis businesses at the state and local level, including the statutorily required CEIF. However, we fought together against an astronomical, unfair, ill timed, and arbitrary CEIF tax increase this past year. What are your views on the CEIF tax, and how should those monies be best spent?
Well, I mean, are you asking me or are you asking Governor?
You answer it as best you can. I
So
mean,
I can't, I don't know if she knows where she stands on that yet, because these are nitty-gritty questions that somebody,
sure.
that are just getting into the office could probably. I know that she comes into this space with an open mind, and that she said that essentially to me last night. So I think
Right.
she'll be open-minded to many of those questions that you asked. I can tell you that my position on it has always been that we are not and should not be overly taxing an industry that's in its infancy. And quite frankly, the chair of the commission was open-minded to that when I've had conversations with her about that. That hey, we can't start blasting the industry with these big taxes, no matter how fair and how good cause they are, because people are going to run from the legal industry and continue to buy from the gray market. and the illegal market, the illicit market. And it's most important for us to drive people into the legal market for all the reasons I stated earlier, because of the safety concerns, because of the fact that they've done everything by the rules, and because of the fact, and this is one of the biggest things I think you'll see at some point in time, is the leakage of dangerous chemicals into the illegal marketplace of cannabis. And that's the reason why you want to buy from legal stores, because the safety is there, the labor rules are there, the testing is there, and we want to continue to make sure that people go there because they know that's the safe place to go.
So, New Jersey is one of the only states in the nation that has legalized both medical and adult use cannabis, but doesn't allow home grow for medical patients. As governor, what efforts will you undertake to ensure that patients can grow their own medicine?
So, we spoke about that yesterday, and I think that the governor elect, hopefully, thinks about it the way I do, which is we're not against home grow. I don't think she's against home grow, but we want to continue to see the industry get off the ground first. And what our experience has been in other states is that the home grow aspect has really allowed for a tremendous amount of product to leak out into the gray market. I know that it sounds perfectly acceptable to have a patient that cannot afford their product to grow their own product and utilize their product for their pain or for whatever ails them. However, in practical, in the practical world, and no one pushed for marijuana harder than me. I agree with people having access to marijuana. But what we saw in Colorado was, a family of four was growing 24 plants, and they had the letter from their grandparents, and they were growing another 24 plants in one location, and they were not using it for their own personal use. They were using it and baling it up and sending it to Nebraska and selling it on the black market, and not testing it and not making sure that it was safe for ingestion. And so that's an issue we got to get past. I think that we can get to a homegrown solution with a very narrowly tailored way of doing it, where a person would have to apply for and receive a permit. Basically, I mean, I've given it a lot of thought for a plant where they would grow on their property, which they would have to certify would only be for them and be subject to scrutiny and inspection. And we could do it, but it's going to be very, very highly regulated, because if it's not, the same problems that we already have are only going to multiply when you introduce a lot more product onto the marketplace. And I don't see any other way that home grow is not going to stop that. Now, I am not against home grow, but I think it's got to be very narrowly tailored to get there.
Excellent. On the issue of medical cannabis, New Jersey's not fully realized its potential of linking its proximity to highly skilled workforce, fantastic medical research centers, and a robust cannabis industry to develop cutting edge, life saving, changing medical research related to cannabis to improve the quality of medical treatment and develop new cannabis derivative alternatives to treatment. If elected governor, what will you do to spearhead those efforts and ensure New Jersey becomes a leader in medical cannabis research?
This is something I think that a Governor Sherrill administration will be very open to trying to help with linking hospitals and healthcare providers and researchers at the university level with growers, in order to try to make additional inroads into what cannabis can mean for people's health. It is a continuing, evolving area of science. I've also, me personally, have uh, introduced legislation to legalize um, psilocybin, which is another area which maybe some folks on this call are interested in as well. It's another naturally occurring product in our communities, which can be very helpful in a lot of different medical settings, not necessarily recreational, but in medical settings. But continuing study on that product needs to continue, and I think cannabis will continue as well.
Excellent. Do you support improving standards for lab testing in the state to ensure increased quality control for the industry, as well as ensuring that the lab testing companies operating here in the state are being properly audited for their own compliance?
Yeah, I mean, that's an area I got to look into a little more carefully. I'm not certain what the complaints are with the testing aspect of this, but that's something that I'm open-minded to listening to your organization and other stakeholders to see if that needs work. That's not something I had heard before you just said that. But if it is something that we need to look at, we're open to that. I think more testing is really important for the reason that I'm hoping for, which is a crackdown on the illegal market. We need to be able to test legitimately all this product that is going to get seized, I hope, that's being sold illegally, so that we can make sure that we can lock these places down and drive people to the legalized stores.
So, in the sort of odd space that we're in, illegal, sort of legal, potential loopholes, we have this issue of intoxicating hemp. I know you're no stranger to that. You guys have acted. I know you've worked with your majority leader in your house to help move that bill.
Yeah.
Right now, intoxicating hemp products are being sold in New Jersey outside the regular cannabis market without being taxed, without being tested. Um, what efforts will you take as governor to ensure that these products, which contain high doses of THC derived from hemp, are safe, tested, taxed, and competing on an equitable footing with this regulated cannabis market we've been talking about?
It's absolutely terrible. We passed what I thought was a common sense piece of regulation. It took a lot of work. We took, what I thought was strong action in the prohibition of sales to minors, but we got to go further. Intoxicating hemp is like cannabis in many, many ways, and we need to have rigorous safeguards in place. We've got to get a bill that passes judicial muster because they kind of threw out a lot of the regulations that we put in there, which I thought was wrong, but I'm not the judge. I'm just a lawyer here and a lawmaker. But the Cannabis Regulatory Commission is central to all of this, I think. The CRC does have a tough job ensuring that these rules are fair and the marketplace is transparent and entrepreneurs have a real chance to succeed. Um, but I think Mikey Sherrill as governor is going to support the CRC in doing the job while ensuring that it's working to be more efficient, more responsive, and more accountable to the communities and businesses it serves. But to answer the question with regard to intoxicating hemp products, we've got a lot to get done. I mean, we got to get this thing under control. It's like a tiger by the tail. We can't get it under control. Every time we pass something, they tell us it's not fair. That's legally available federally, even though it's you can't do the cannabis, but you can do this other product. So we really need to continue to work on legislation that will be upheld.
Um, One thing that you guys did previously, the enactment bill, original enactment bill, did not allow state support on the financial side. You, through your leadership as Senate president, well, I guess you probably were just senator at the time when this was enacted,
Yeah.
amended that law to allow the New Jersey EDA, which has had a fairly innovative grant program that they've utilized. And I believe there's another tranche potentially coming out before the end of this term. What would you do if elected to encourage more investment through public-private partnerships along the lines of what EDA is doing? And I know you mentioned the state bank, but what about direct grant programs through EDA and public-private partnerships? What do you foresee there?
Well, I think now that the program is up and running and the sky hasn't fallen and everybody's not walking around high at work all the time and police officers aren't high on the job and all the scary things that people pushed back on. And none of these things that people pushed back on during all of these hearings and all the discussion about this over the decades I worked on it have come true. Basically, nothing has come true. We have beautiful stores. You have really outstanding business owners. You have safe product and the industry is a good, law-abiding, tax-paying, job-generating place. So, with that as our cornerstone, I think some of these things, like what you just said, suggested, EDA grant programs, and some other things that we could utilize to support this industry, would not be so looked at in such a way that it's impossible. I mean, all these things would have been unfathomable when I first passed the bill. But now that we've gotten it off the ground and people see that these places are existing right next to any other store and there's no issues with them, I think that we're open to doing more with this industry.
Well, I'm going to close this out. Thank you for your time with one last question, and it's sort of open ended. One, is there anything we haven't talked about here today that you'd like to talk about? And second, where do you see the New Jersey cannabis industry at the end of your first term if you're elected governor?
Well, let me say a couple of other things. First, I've given some consideration to legislation that might allow for a private cause of action to help compete with these illegally um, operating stores. Because if the state's not going to do it, government's not going to do it, cities aren't going to do it, counties aren't going to do it, maybe the industry could be helpful in this because they are the ones that have the most to lose. And perhaps something to gain if we can create a private right cause of action. We've done this in other industries
Yes.
where the government hasn't been able to do something that we wanted achieved. So that's something I've been giving some thought to, and I think that would be something that would be very helpful in getting the gray market, the illicit market out of New Jersey. And it's going to take forever for that to happen. It's never going to be completely gone in my lifetime, I don't believe. But we've got to continue down that path. But in 4 years from now, hopefully, we'll have achieved some of those goals where folks that want to be in the industry are thriving, that are in a space where they're making a living and they're providing jobs for New Jerseyans, and that the cannabis industry is alive and well and is creating a tax revenue stream, and that people are legally ingesting safe product, and that we've closed down lots of the loopholes. We've made it easier to open up a business, and we've closed down many of these illegal stores, and certainly the ones that are brick and mortar, and continuing to try to chase off illegal drug dealers because that's what they are. They're continuing to deal drugs to our citizens without the permits, without the testing, without any of the regulations that are put in place to people that have done it the right way. So if we can continue to make progress in that, I think we've done a good job.
Excellent. Well, Senate President, thank you, number one, for taking the time out to spend with us. And also thanks to the Sherrill campaign for sending you to be a representative on her behalf. Very informative, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I think, and just final thought, I think the Sherrill administration on this issue is going to be very open-minded and fine to work with, hopefully me and others, to try to continue to make the industry stronger, better, more efficient. I'm not really sure if the other side's going to do that because I couldn't get any votes out of them when we tried to legalize it to begin with. So I think, and there is no doubt in my mind where the industry should fall in terms of where we're looking at in the future. So it's
We're
clear to
looking
me.
forward to working with you in lame duck. I know you have some goals on statutory change, and you know that we will be partners with you on that. So we're looking forward to work with you in your Senate President capacity before we get to the next term, whoever that may be.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good to be with friends, and keep up the good work. Really appreciate it.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks.